Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Lift Tower. My name's Charles McGillivray, and I'm joined, as always, by Simon Stacey and Jess Kebbell. This is a special edition of the show, and we're joined by a very special guest. We're actually very excited to announce that he's the first guest we've ever had on who's born this century. He was born in Colchester, and he started his sporting career in the Colchester Football Academy before he was convinced to turn his massive frame to good use and picked up the egg-shaped ball. 18 months later, he's a full-time Saint, where he's gone on to make age-grade rugby appearances for Wales, but ultimately 7 appearances for England at the under-20 level, including the Six Nations and Summer Series. He's one of the Saints who have made the most of the Bedfordshire link-up, the Bedford link-up, playing 17 times for the Blues. His current Saints career is 23 games and 2 tries. Saint 2043, Tom Lockett. How you doing, Tom?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Oh no, brilliant to have you on. How's the injury coming? How's it going with the injury?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It was my first real long-term injury. So it's sort of like I had a few conversations with the psychologist and sort of trying to get over that hurdle of coming into pre-season, doing 2 weeks and then being out for 12 is a bit of a weird one. But I'm hopefully on the home straight of it now.
Is injury ever frustrating, more frustrating ever at this time when, there's maybe opportunities or what have you? Is it extra frustrating? Is that a bigger challenge?
Well, it's sort of it depends which way you look at it, because on the one hand, you come back for a new season and you're raring to go, because obviously we had a lot of people leave in the summer and I'm thinking, this could be my big year. But then on the flip side, I could have done the whole of pre-season and then got injured in the first game, and then you end up missing more rugby. So whichever way you look at it, there's if you keep thinking of it like that, you're always going to find something to get annoyed about. So it's one of those where you just have to accept it. And I had 2 weeks after I got injured before my surgery, so I sort of had 2 weeks where I was in and around the club where I could process it. And then by the time I got to the operation, I was sort of I was ready to sort of rip into it.
It's really interesting you said there about the psychologist as well. Is that a big part of the game now that, with dealing with injuries, there's a lot of support and stuff around the club, and dealing with it maybe, years gone by that wouldn't have been the case for players?
Yeah, probably. It's something that's obviously become much more of a focus in terms of not just with injured players, but in terms of leadership and game management and that sort of stuff, and how we react under pressure. We've got Ollie in now, who's been brilliant, and he was a big part of how well our leadership group worked last year, and sort of developing some of those guys for this year, knowing the group that was leaving. And he's been massive for us, and it's great to have someone like that in the environment.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I imagine it must be a lot down to the case of it, these things happen through your career. You've just got to deal with the scenario that you served and get on with it, really, I suppose.
Well, exactly. As I say, you could quite easily think about, would it have been easier, or I'd be playing now if I wasn't injured, and then that's when you sort of spiral, when it's probably, there's no point thinking like that, because I know that I'm going to play when I play, and it doesn't matter what's going on ultimately right now because I'm injured. So there's no point thinking about what could have been.
No, exactly. I suppose that segues into what could have been. So you started in the Colchester Academy, is that right? Playing football?
Yeah, so I played a lot of football growing up, and I sort of only really played rugby when I didn't have football on.
What got you into rugby?
I had a coach at school who the school I went to was mainly a rugby school, and it was one of those where every Tuesday everyone played rugby, and you sort of got tiered based on how good you were, sort of thing. And they were struggling for numbers in what they called the first team at the time in year 7, and I essentially got put in there because I was tall, and so he was, at the time I was sceptical because I was a big into football, and that's what I wanted to be spending my time doing. And he sort of just said, just have a go, see if you enjoy it, like you'll like the atmosphere sort of thing. And that was it. That, to be fair, after I started, it was sort of the social aspect that stuck with me. I never really played in any club rugby, which looking back, I'm a bit gutted about, because I think I would have enjoyed it. But also, I think the route I've taken into the game has meant that my ceiling's probably a bit higher, because I've come in and I was pretty raw when I first signed my contract, and it's having not had that experience before, it's probably given me a lot of room for growth early on, which has helped me a lot.
Sort of no bad habits sort of taught you by junior coaches and stuff like that, you mean?
Well, yeah, like, because I like, my coaches at school were brilliant, but we'd only really see them for about an hour a week. So at that point, you're sort of playing off instinct. And obviously, because I wasn't playing any club rugby and all the other lads were, they were picking up different things, and I was just sort of playing off instinct and what I was watching on the TV, really. So it was only really when I was 17 when I came into the under-18s at Saints, and I'd get that extra 2 hours on a Tuesday night, and then straight away I was improving massively, like week on week. And that was when, after about 6 months of that and some of the feedback I was getting, I was like, wow, there could actually be an opportunity here.
It's interesting, picking up from watching on TV, etc. Being from Colchester is obviously within the Saints region, whatever, but it's one of the sort of further extremities of the region. Was Northampton Saints part of your, were you a fan? Were they part of your sort of knowledge of rugby at the time?
So my knowledge of rugby, like, originally was, so my mum's Welsh, and a lot of my, like, rugby watching growing up was when I'd go and see her family and watch sort of the Welsh regions play. And then obviously the Six Nations was massive with us, because my dad was a big rugby fan, and obviously my mum was Welsh. So I was lucky that when I was younger, I got to go to a few of those games at the Millennium Stadium and at Twickenham, and that was what sort of did it for me. Was watching those sorts of games and seeing the best players in the world, like, up close, and that sort of gave me a bit of inspiration when I was playing, and maybe gave me a bit more inspiration to play rugby than it did football.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Your intro into the game is one of the biggest games in the in international season. England v Wales is an enormous game. I think the key question to that is, when you attended, what colour was the shirt you were wearing?
It depends who took me.
Right. Okay.
That's a good answer.
Right. Yeah. We'll leave that one there then. So you did play a bit of under Welsh at sort of 16s, 18s, was it?
Yeah. So I when I joined the under-18s, I'd spoken a little bit to the Welsh Exiles, and they had a camp in just before COVID, actually. And I probably wasn't at a stage where I would get picked for the England under-18s. And they asked me if I wanted to come into the camp. And I said, that was the sort of time where I was just taking all the opportunities I could. And so I went there and I did. There were sort of like 3 or 4 day camps leading up to what would have been the Six Nations, but obviously didn't end up happening. And that was it was a really good experience in terms of, at that point, I'd never been to a rugby camp. I'd only ever sort of been to rugby sessions in the evening. So it was a bit of an eye opener into what professional rugby would be like.
What is it that then attracted you then to the professional? Is it just you love sports and professional environment? It's something you wanted to be into, or is it, what attracted you to that idea of becoming a professional rugby player?
Well, I wouldn't say I was desperate to be a professional sports person in that sense. It was more sort of, I'd probably say I was riding the wave when I was younger, and sort of, like I said, I was taking all the opportunities I could, and it got to the stage where I'd got to a point in the Saints under-18 setup, and I started to think that, what would I do if they offered me a contract? And that was when I sort of realised that there wasn't really anything else that I wanted to do. I was determined to keep riding the wave for as long as possible, and live out. Like, it's always been a dream of mine to be a professional sports person, as it probably is for 90% of kids in the country. But like, once that opportunity became sort of in touching distance, that was when I thought this is something I could do.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Like you said, 90% of the country probably wants to play professional sport at some point. And then so as you develop, you've obviously if you've gone from 18 months, you've had this development to where you became a full-time professional, whatever. There's a lot to take in. How important was the Bedford link up and going out there and playing championship rugby with Blues?
Yeah, it's massive. Obviously, Bedford's a great club, and there's a lot of link between the coaching styles, and we obviously send some coaching staff to Bedford as well. And now Tom Cruise is the forwards coach. But like, the language is very similar. The boys are brilliant, and Mike's one of the most experienced coaches in the game. And to get regular rugby there is something, like, when there probably wasn't an opportunity for me to put on a Saints shirt, I could go every weekend and play in the championship. And I learned a lot, probably more than I would have done just training. Like Dallas always says, the best way to get good at rugby is to play rugby. And I didn't really have any opportunity at that stage to play at Saints, so to do it anywhere was perfect for me.
Hi, Tommy. I was just on that matter. What's the differences between Bedford and Saints? I know they're at different levels, but is there a lot like difference in training and the opponents and stuff like that?
Well, in terms of opponents, like, there's so many. The Champ's such a varied league in terms of what type of team you're going to come up against, and like what sort of place you're going to go and play. Like, the best example you can use is Caldy. Like, going to Caldy and playing Caldy is a much different experience to playing them at home. And that's probably not really something you get in the Premiership. Like Sale, you know that whether you play in Sale or whether you play them at home, you're probably going to get a similar sort of team. Whereas Caldy is, like, they're almost completely different teams when you play them home and away. And adjusting to that is a good learning curve for a lot of young players, especially in the Type 5. And I think, like, Bedford's training is also, because of the style of rugby they want to play, they're one of the teams in the Champ that will always like stick to their DNA. So their training reflects that. It's always quite tough, and they've got high standards. And obviously Mike, as I say, is very experienced, so he knows what he wants to get out of them as well. And they've got some really experienced players there as well who will push that standard as well.
Yeah, there's a hell of a lot of ex-Saints there, and they're still playing and coaching. But so it's good to see, and obviously that's helps you progress. So you'd say last season was probably your big breakthrough season at Saints, like making like your European starts and obviously scoring that wonder try against Toulon in the last 3 minutes and winning the game. How did that feel? Because that must have been that's one thing I've dreamed of doing, is scoring a try at the Garden. So that must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was just, yeah, as you say, it's the sort of thing that you dream of like winning a big European game in the last minute. It was nice to, like, I put in a lot of hard work over that summer to come back in a physical, like, position to be able to play in the Premiership. And I'd had a good couple of games up to that point, and I'd played in Glasgow the week before, which was like, that was my big sort of break to start a European game away in Glasgow. And it gave me a lot of confidence for the rest of the season. And obviously I ended up going to Bedford after that, and I felt really comfortable, like, in myself, and I played some good rugby. And I think I was just happy that I'd put in all of that work over the summer, and I was starting to see the rewards of it.
Yeah, you can see it's paying off. And so what was it like? We're going to get to that moment. What was it like being part of that squad last year? Because it's 10 years for us to get another trophy, and it was, again, stressful on the day, but the whole season we were amazing. What was it like being part of that core group that won the championship again?
Yeah, it was. I'd say, like, the best word to describe it was fun. Like, every day, like, even when we lost, which, like, we didn't lose many, but even when we did lose, it was still fun. Like, we turn up. There wasn't a day where we turned up and didn't want to go to work, which is almost that you can probably see that from the outside, like how much we enjoyed being in each other's company. And obviously we won a lot together and we had some great experiences, won some great away games, and I think that was probably key to the success, like how tight the group was. Even the people that weren't playing, like we had so much fun and so many good times with each other that like it almost felt that we owed each other something at the end.
Yeah. You can see that you can see it was like a brotherhood, especially like you could see that because you're all so tight, and that's important, really, isn't it? So, how did you? Are we allowed to answer this on the questions? But did you guys celebrate, and how long did you celebrate for? Because some of you looked a bit worse for wear on the Sunday on the bus.
Yeah, so we had like a good sing song in the change room afterwards, which was nice. And then we got back on the bus and came back to the stadium where they put on like a sort of open bar with all the players and families and stuff like that, which was really nice. And then, as you say, the open top bus tour was just like unbelievable. It was like I speak to my parents about it now. They were just like, we've never seen anything like that. Like, to think, obviously, it's when you play at the Gardens, you see 15,000 people and you hear the noise, but to see them all lining the streets is almost it's a bit surreal. And when the bus came down into the market square, we were all a bit taken aback. Like, there's a lot of people here, like that have seen what we've done. So that was very cool. But yeah, there was some sore heads on that Monday morning.
Yeah, it was mental, wasn't it? So many people there. It was so good to see. My last point. So after you'd done that, I'm guessing you all had a holiday in that. But did you set any targets for next season, or you just straight off and chilled out and just go and have an holiday, enjoy it?
Yeah. So we had like about 10 days, 2 weeks completely off, and then we started back with a bit of return to running and gym stuff, because last season was a longer pre-season with the World Cup, but this year is a bit more condensed. So we knew that we had to come back in like a physical position where we could sort of go hard from day one. So there was probably a bit more emphasis in the off season this year about training rather than the season before. But for me, it was sort of the same thing, like staying in a good physical position to like compete in the Premiership. And obviously, I wanted to push myself a bit more and not be like not be a here and there player and like getting in the team sometimes. I wanted to sort of cement my place, which obviously with the injury wasn't ideal. But I'm hoping that when I get back, I can do that.
Yeah.
Is that something that you kind of like a really particular ambition for you then, to try and really kind of push? Obviously, it's difficult now with the injury, but trying to really push forward and take those opportunities now. You know, people like Moon have left and there's spaces open.
Yeah, like I sat down in the first couple of weeks of the season with the coaches, and my key for the year was to try and make every 23, like in whatever capacity that is, and that's still my aim when I get back fit. Like I feel like I laid some good foundations down last year, and it'd be nice to build on them and get some consistent game time and be involved in as many matches as possible.
And then thinking ahead to kind of an international level, which maybe is not a huge part of your thinking, but obviously you've talked about Wales and England at the kind of under levels. Are you looking to kind of push forward on that international stage a bit more? Is it England that you're looking to play for as you move forward?
Well, at the moment, the sort of key thing for me is getting in a Saints team consistently, because I know the only way I'm going to get picked for international teams is if I'm playing consistently well in the Premiership in Europe. I think you've probably seen like someone like Alex Coles, who was so good for us last year, has sort of got his rewards with England now, and that just, from my perspective, that shows me the level I need to be at if I want to be considered for international honours. So it's one of those where rather than thinking about the end goal, I'm sort of thinking if I can cement my place in the Saints team, play consistently well, then that sort of stuff will happen off the back of it. And
so it is England that you're kind of looking for as you move forward. Then we've got to check.
Well, I haven't. I'm not making any decisions yet.
Yeah, fair play.
That's fair. No. I know, Simon, you've got your question.
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
you'd
yeah.
love to ask.
I usually do a question. We've had quite a few of the legends of the game. So I usually ask who's a player that you best played with, and a player you aspire to play with. Obviously, because you're still a young lad. And was there anybody that, because you said obviously you weren't into rugby, was there anyone you looked up to that you saw and thought, oh, I want to be like that?
Well, the best player I've ever played with was Courtney Laws.
I knew that was that. I see it.
Yeah, we've had that repeatedly.
Yeah, he's probably also, as you say, him or like when I watched those games when I was younger, the three players that always stood out for me were Courtney, Manu Tuolangi, and Jonathan Davis, the Welsh centre. They were the three that sort of like I'd be watching highlight reels of. I'd say now, I mean, I've always wanted to play, not necessarily with a specific player, but I've always wanted to play in La Rochelle. I did a French exchange there when I was younger, and I sort of trained with their academy a little bit, just with my French exchange who was in their academy, and like seeing that place and seeing that town. Obviously, when they won in Europe and they had their open bus tour, that's just always been in a stadium that I'd like to play in.
Yeah, French rugby's mental, isn't it? I've been over the French final a few times. Their fans are just insane. It's so good. It's such a good atmosphere.
Yeah, like I when I went to La Rochelle, it was off season, but like the amount of people that were walking around wearing shirts and had badges on their car and stuff like that. It's a bit like Northampton, really, in the sense. And obviously, it's a lovely place of the world.
Yeah, of course.
It's interesting there that the two of the three players you picked, obviously Courtney being Courtney, but the other two players were both centres. Have you always been a second row, or have you coming through the age groups, have you played elsewhere?
So I started in the back row, but at that point, right, I wasn't massively detail focused, so I wasn't thinking this is the position I play, this is who I want to play like. It was more, I like what he's done. I like how he carries the ball, like stuff like that. I like how exciting he is. It was the people who got us off our seats, basically. And I think when I first started watching rugby was that 2017 Lions tour. That was the first time where I watched it properly. And obviously Courtney was on that tour, was unbelievable, and Jonathan Davis was as well. So yeah, that's probably why those two stick out.
And you also mentioned there as well about how seeing Alex reach international honours, etc. And I'm sure it's playing with Laws last year as well. You've seen that the standards that they get to, and therefore the standards that you need to get to sort of push on into those roles. And we say multiple times on the pod last year when we knew Moon was leaving that there aren't many people in the same sort of size bracket as Alex Moon, but you are. Is that something whereby what are the areas of your game that you feel you need to keep working on and improving on to get to those sort of consistent performances for Saints? Firstly,
yeah, like me and Mooney are very different players, but I learned a lot off him because the stuff that I'd traditionally not been very good at was his bread and butter. Like he was an unbelievable ball defender, and he was consistent. Like he got through a consistent workload all the time. So I learned a lot off of him last year, and that's a big part of my game. Obviously, our nuts and bolts as second rows is our set piece. If we can be consistent maul defenders and good maul attackers as well as like strong line operators, that's key for us to get in any team. So I think they're the sort of things that Colsey's really good at, that Courtney was really good at, that Mooney was really good at as well. So to sort of my ticket to play is all of that set piece stuff, and then doubled on top of that is how I fit into the defensive system, what I can add from an attacking point of view, get my hands on the ball. They're where I can add a point of difference.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I suppose the other sort of the elephant in the room at the moment is what's the feeling in camp after the weekend? It was a bit of a rough watch at Welford Road.
Yeah, it obviously it's disappointing because I think we're disappointed because we didn't put on the pitch what we know we can, but it's also disappointing from the perspective that we did see it in sort of fits and starts, and like it was very clear that we were bang up for it and we were almost there, which is an annoying thing, especially in a derby. But it's the sort of thing in a short week we're playing on Friday night, and it's not the sort of thing you can dwell on because that can bring the whole season down. So it's very much we'll review it. We're disappointed and it hurts, but we'll park it. They've still got to come back to the Gardens, and we've got Sale at home on Friday.
Yeah, that's the bit I wanted to hear. They've got to come back to the Gardens. Does that tie into the sort of the mentality of the squad? You want to get them back for that result.
Yeah, like last year we lost away at Leicester, and when they came back to the Gardens, we hammered them. So I think that will obviously when it comes round to Derby Day again, that will stick in the back of our mind and that will sting. But as I say, they've got to come back and beat us at home.
Yeah, exactly. So thinking about Sale, then, what's the squad expecting to see from Sale on Friday night?
Sale are like a big physical team, and there's not lots of bells and whistles. It's you know what you're going to get. They're going to come straight up the guts, and that's a good challenge for our lads in the sense that we sort of know what we're going to get, and it's about attacking it and putting our game on the pitch as much as we can.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Thanks so much, Tom, for your time. Oh, sorry.
I've got one question. It's only a funny one because he's one of your academy mates. What's your opinion of Big Ed Prowse playing lock?
Oh, I think he's brilliant. He's in the Will Skelton mould of second row.
Is he getting on all right there? Because obviously I haven't been at Bedford, obviously, because I watched the Saints. Is he getting on all right there?
Yeah, so it was the first 80 minutes he'd ever played in his life. Obviously, being a tight head, they don't normally go the whole game. But for him to play 80 minutes at Bedford, and he took a couple of lineouts as well, which was nice. But yeah, I think it's brilliant for him to start playing at Bedford in a new position and carving up.
Yeah, I just have to ask. Sorry.
I feel sorry for the lifters who have to get him up there. But,
I wasn't going to say that.
But play 80 minutes away at Cornish and get the win is a hell of a result. So fair play to the lad.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tom, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Thanks very much for listening. Look out for more episodes coming up with more guests. But I've been Charles McGilvray. Simon's been Simon. Jess has been Jess. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.